Hello everyone, welcome to the first installment to AKDRL News. Wes FPV Drift Freimuth, and this is
Mark FPV Slacker Slack.
Today we're going to go over a couple of items, introduce ourselves as a group, and let you know what we're doing up here in Alaska.
Yeah, we've been around for officially less than 2 years, I would say. We just finished our first full calendar of scheduled events this last summer with the culmination of our championship round.
Just a little quick history, how Alaska DRL came together. How many people do we have in our group now? We have a total of 35 pilots.
Yeah, well, as of this morning, there are 36 on the list now.
Okay. And how this group came about, Mark and Steve Colligan put together a meeting, and they were interested in getting drone racing in the state of Alaska. I was actually working on the side to do my own little thing, and then we all kind of met each other and combined our efforts, and that's how we are here today.
We were just recently in the Alaska Dispatch News. They came out to our championship event, and they wrote up a really nice article on us. And the pilot on the front cover here, Chris A.K. Rush, I don't recall his last name at the moment. This was his first event, and he got on the front page. So it's most of the front page and almost the entire back page. And I think we've already got a new pilot that has recently signed up just from this article. So
I'm always interested in hearing how people get involved with flying quads and FPV. What's your story on that?
Well, I've always been interested in gadgets, we'll say. I'm not one to open them up and take them apart and that kind of thing, but I still have a basic interest in them. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine happened to be a customer service person at the Costco's, or Sam's Club, excuse me, and they were having a blowout sale on this thing called a roll-in spider. And he gave me one, and you control it with your phone. And in the first day, with the phone, it's a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi connection, and touch screens, and I really didn't like it. I put it down pretty much immediately, but then it wasn't but a week later, I thought, well, that was cool, and I was looking at stuff on the internet, and I went to the local hobby shop, and I found this a Blade Nano QX, and it was no camera, nothing like that. I brought that home, and I just started trying to hover, and it was really difficult just to hover. And when I got through the whole minute and a half battery life without crashing of just hovering, well, I was hooked. And now I've got a couple of them.
Just a few.
And so I thought, well, I need to find a group to learn. There must be a group of guys and gals out there that are doing this. I need to learn this stuff. And so I went back to the hobby shop, and I said, what's the name of a group? And they said, there is no group. And I said, really? Well, I think there needs to be a group.
Time to start one.
So I made up some flyers and hung them around the local grocery store bulletin boards. And our president, Steve Colligan, contacted me. We had a meeting. Pretty exciting ride ever since, with a very bright future.
Yes, it is.
So how did you get started?
For me, I was actually in search of a hobby at the time. I thought it was going to be electronics that I was going to get into, so I actually started with RC race trucks, thinking that seemed pretty cool. It had speed. You had to be good with your thumbs on that as well. But that one wore off for me really quick. And then one day on YouTube, I think, like most people find drone flying, I saw that infamous shot where they had drones. I think it was probably the very first one.
The France one?
Yeah, I believe so, where they had the quads going through the woods.
Yeah.
And from there, I decided at that point, I got to try this. And I could have made a better choice for my very first quad. I bought a HeliPal 280. It's a 6-inch quadcopter. Probably not one you want to start out with. I would recommend.
While you mention the measurements, let's just do a little bit of
Sure.
When we say measurements, we're talking about from from the motor tip diagonal to the motor tip. So this is, I don't know the exact measurement of this. What is that measurement?
This one, I believe, is a 219
A 219?
millimeter. Yep.
Okay, so 219 millimeter. That,
And imagine a 280 from that. It's quite a bit bigger, actually. So it's a pretty big quad to start out with. Very fast. It had multiple settings for it, and I was flying it in stabilized mode when I first got it, which that's another subject we'll get into
another video.
later. But it took me a good 6 months before I would fly it and not crash it. After it clicks, you're hooked from that point on.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was not considering early on is the intimidation factor, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are people out there racing in the community, or racing as individuals. That they're not really racing, but they're flying around fast.
Yeah.
They don't think they're good enough to join a league, but that is not the truth. I mean, that is far from the truth. I mean, I am a pilot, but I can't really say that I'm competitive at all. I say that I'm there to provide the entertainment, because what do people really want to see when they're watching racing of all types is crashes. So,
And I back you up on that too.
I'm pretty good at that. But don't feel intimidated at all about coming out and joining us. All skill levels are there.
Yeah, all skill levels really are there, and everyone is encouraged to come out. If you have a passion for getting into flying drones and FPV, please come out to the events. There's people that just bought their drone and are on stabilized mode. Everybody's welcome.
Anybody can come and join us, fly with us, get the good practice it takes to move on to a national and even international competition.
Absolutely. Most people that just get started in flying quads or drones, they're not aware of a lot of regulations where they can and can't fly. They just buy it and they take it out to a park and they think they're going to have fun with it. Well, you do, but you learn fairly quickly that there are some regulations that you have to follow. There's some safety protocols that you have to follow. And the more they learn about that, that's what drives them to come to a league, because that's our whole point, is to promote this this sport and promote the safety. We can safely do this, easy. There's just some processes you got to follow. And it also gives us an opportunity to identify areas that people can fly safely. So from there, do we want to just go into some of the basic gear that we would need to use for FPV?
Yeah, the first thing y'all are going to need is a radio. And so here what the majority of racers use is called a FRSKY, pronounced Free Sky radio. Tyrannus, this happens to be the Tyrannus XD9 Plus, and lots of fancy switches, and it's open source, OpenTX, open source software. You can do all kinds of different stuff. And the other one
is a Spectrum. There's actually a number of different radios you can use, but out of the majority of the pilots are either using the Tyrannus or the Spectrums. And both of them have their good traits, but I gotta say that my choice is probably the Tyrannus, only because it's open source and you can do so much more with it.
Yeah, and then the next thing you'll need is something for FPV stands for first person view, versus LOS, line of sight. With first person view, you're going to look at, there's a couple of screens in here, and so this is goggles that you put on your face. Other pilots will use a box with the screen out in front, but this is pretty typical goggles that you're going to receive the video to see where you're flying.
And then, not last and not least, the most probably the important part is to have the right quad. And most of us up here right now are flying with 5-inch, and some people are running 4s. But all these are home built. I guess you can buy them ready to go. But most of us, I think, are building our own. So you build them from each one of the own pieces. You got your ESCs, you got your flight controller, You got a power distribution board, and then the motors, and then a carbon fiber frame along with some props. A VTX, so you can send a picture from your camera to your goggles, and then you get the battery. What am I forgetting?
Yeah, well, this is a 4-inch right here, and you'll hear a lot of acronyms and information that we'll in the future have more detailed videos covering these acronyms and such. But you can buy ready to fly RTF is the radio and the craft, or you can buy almost ready to fly, which is just the craft already built, or you can just literally buy every single component separately and put it all together, and that's all coming in future videos.
And that pretty much covers what you need to do the outdoor flying, but we are in the process of getting ready for our winter season, and for that season we use a little bit different quad. Today I got a Mosquito. This is an inducted prop. Inducted meaning that the props are covered, so if you hit something, you're just going to bounce off. You're not going to get tangled up in somebody's hair or whatever. And it has the basic components, the same components as an outdoor quad. It's got the motors. These are brushless motors. It's got the ESCs, electronic speed controllers. It's got a flight controller board, PDB, power distribution board, and a VTX video
Transmission board.
video transmission board, along with a camera and some antennas.
Yeah. And one other thing is the different battery sizes. So this here we have what's referred to as a 4-cell, which means 4 batteries in a series. There's 4 of them here, and this is a 3S, 3-cell, and
then we also have a 2S.
And indoors in the winter, we are sticking to a 2S or even a 1-cell battery for a craft that's even smaller than this.
Drone racing is becoming big very fast. This is probably, how old is Multi-GP? I think it's 2 years old.
No, I'd say less than 4 years.
Less than 4 years old.
Yeah, 3 something.
They started in one state, and within 2 years they got in all 50 states, as well as worldwide.
Yes, we should say that we do have the distinguished honor to be the last state of all to form a multi-GP chapter. So,
and currently we're the only chapter in the state of Alaska.
Yes, the only chapter. And there are 6, I can't remember right now, 5 or 6 regions throughout the country where they have regional qualifiers throughout the summer, culminating into a championship, which just happened to be at the Reno Air Shows here a few weeks ago. And they crowned a 2017 champion. Well, Wes, I think this is probably a pretty good introduction. Mm-hmm. There is a lot more content that we have in mind to produce and to put on up our YouTube channel. We'll be going into some basic concepts and some very in-depth concepts. It's a never-ending subject.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is an education. This hobby. I mean, I've learned so much in electronics. I never soldered before in my life until I got into quads. So we'll be going into some of that in later episodes. We'll go into different kind of gear that's out there for you to use. We'll probably even do some tests on some products, which we've done earlier on, but I don't think we put out there yet. So yeah, hopefully, if you have something that you would like to see us work on and post, please feel free to comment and let us know what that is, and we'll do our best to accommodate that.
Yeah. So I think in closing, we should say, let's race.
Let's race.